What up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. It's DeMarius Jackson. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Doctor of Music Education degree from Liberty University. So I made a video about this a while ago. I want to say it was a few years ago when I first started the journey. And I've had a couple of questions along the way. And now that I have finished, I felt like it's appropriate to make a video about it and kind of answer some of the questions some of you may or may not have about the program. So to give you a little bit of my background, I actually don't have a academic background in music education. So my bachelor's degree is a Bachelor of Music Performance and Saxophone Performance specifically from Winthrop University in South Carolina. My master's degree is actually a Master of Music with a concentration in Jazz Studies. So I did no music education prior to starting this program. And so I would say that that kind of started me off at a disadvantage. But I don't think so. It's almost good sometimes going into things blindly because I knew it was going to be a challenge. I didn't know how much of a challenge, but I knew that I had a little bit of a disadvantage, you could say, on the music education side of things. Now, my day-to-day job, if you don't know, I am an active duty Marine Corps officer. When I started the program, I was the director and the officer in charge of the 3 Marine Expeditionary Force Band out in Okinawa, Japan. So I have been doing this for well over 20 years. It's performance kind of based, directing bands, conducting, playing, leading small ensembles, large ensembles. But as far as, a academic or doing anything, especially with music education, specifically dealing with like high school, obviously middle school and elementary school, I had no background. So I started the program in January of 2021. I defended my dissertation and successfully passed it in August of 2023. So I took no breaks during that time period. I started in January and I took 2 classes every single semester, essentially. So 2 January, summertime came in 2021, 2 classes, fall, 2 classes. Same thing through 2022, just straight on. I will admit it was a little bit of a push all the way leading up until 2023. I will say that also my very last class. So if you want to go look at, you can look this up on Liberty's website, the degree program for it. I believe mine, it was 45 hours. I will double check that. 45 hours. I ended up actually taking the second thesis dissertation class twice, and I'll tell you why in a second. But leading back to when it started, I took all of my kind of core classes initially, like as you would in most degree programs, and I will say it is quite a bit of writing. And I'm sure if somebody's out there like, well, duh, it's a doctoral program, of course it's writing. Having a background in performance as a bachelor's degree and my master's being more performance-based with jazz studies, I don't know. It's a lot of writing. I'll put it that way. It's quite some writing. And also trying to maintain this while having a full-time job. I will say if your time management skills aren't the best, then it might be a little bit of a challenge for you. I will fully admit, so most of my classes had forums or discussion posts, I should say, that I had to do during the week. So there would be a prompt, I would have to respond in the discussion post and then respond to 2 other people's discussions. It would have a set word amount, say it's like 200 to 400 words. And then I will have to have sources within that. So a select amount of sources from my initial post and also reference material, source cited material in the responses as well. And then a lot of times at the end of the class, once again, it's depending on class. I'm not going to go through every class. This is more of a general overview. On the weekends, I would end up writing anywhere between 10 to 20 pages for assignments. That could be every week. It could be every other week, but it was pretty regular. Once again, trying to balance that with a full-time job, I will admit, was a little bit difficult. What I ended up doing was concentrating on the forum post all throughout the week. And I'll just be honest with you, my weekends were full of writing. I would wake up at 7 o'clock in the morning and just write. Is it the healthy thing to do? Maybe not. I mean, I researched a lot of information on how to study and how to get better at these things. Some people suggest a Pomodoro method. If you haven't heard of that, you can look that up as well. But that's what worked for me. So I would write until the nighttime. And if I didn't finish, I would wake up on Sunday and do the exact same thing again. Often sacrificing sleep, just to be honest, to finish the assignments. And so most of my classes were like that. I will say it was a little bit difficult. So once again, I don't work for a school district. I am a active duty Marine. Some of my classes, I actually had to get in contact with school districts and try to glean information for projects. That proved to be a little difficult at times. But with some finagling and convincing of folks, I was able to get information. It was probably especially hard for me, just being honest, being in Okinawa and there not being a public school system. Everything operated through there is called the Department of Defense Education Activity. And I had to find the correct people to locate to get that information. But I will say I was able to do it, so I'm fully confident that you will be able to do it. So years go by, I'm taking class after class after class after class. I finally get to the dissertation portion of the degree program. And I will say my overall experience was great. My thesis dissertation chair is a phenomenal educator. He's a professor emeritus right now. I won't say his name, but I guess if you look up my dissertation, you can find it there. But I like to be challenged and I like to be called out. I'll just be real. Anything that I was doing in the degree program that didn't have a place, any information that didn't have a place in my overall project, I was called out on, and I respect that, and I actually do like that. It is a little bit disheartening to write a single chapter of 30 some odd pages and say that 10 pages have to be removed because it's not relevant. I will admit, it's disheartening. But overall, it was the right thing to do in retrospect. I look at the program as a whole. I love the entire process. Some of the hiccups, not really hiccups, I won't call it that. Some of my challenges and why I had to end up taking my second dissertation course twice is there's something called the IRB, Institutional Review Board. All right, so basically I had to get permission to conduct research, ask people questions. It had to go through a whole checklist of things. My questionnaires had to be vetted. Who I was sending it to had to be vetted. The wording had to be exact. So that took quite a bit of time for me. I've seen it take longer for others. It took me about 3 months. And you are not supposed to conduct research without getting that approval. So that kind of put me at a little bit of a standstill. Once I got done with the IRB process, getting into the actual research and conducting the research, I hit a hiccup as well. I needed a sample group large enough to support my research. For me, it was 10% of the overall group. So I had to find 50 people that met a certain criteria of what I was looking for my research project. And I will say that took me quite some time. I had to get really creative and looking for those folks and locating them all across the nation, the world, wherever I could find a former Marine or Navy musician who taught specifically high school musicians. It sounds easy. It's actually quite hard. So that took me quite some time. And of course, the writing process. Some of the things I did not know, if you're in this program, I didn't realize when I started research that I was going to have to pay an editor. And so while writing my dissertation, I'm getting feedback from my dissertation chair, my thesis reader, providing valuable feedback. I got to the point where I thought I was a pretty good writer. I mean, especially leading up into the dissertation project, all of the courses before well prepared me for the writing that was going to be involved with my overall dissertation project. However, I hired an editor as advised for most people writing a thesis or dissertation, and wow, it was a lot of corrections. And those corrections took quite some time to correct the fix. So overall, I will say you don't need a direct music education background in order to complete the degree. Like I said, I was a performance-based guy. I really concentrated on saxophone and multiple woodwinds for my undergrad. It was recitals. And the same concept happened for my master's degree as well. And so getting this degree, I feel like kind of rounded out my education. I feel like, I have a sufficient enough, I love the saxophone, I love performing, I love all instruments that I can play. That's my passion, I will admit that. I have a little bit of background in jazz through that program. That's another love of mine. And throughout this program, I've gathered an appreciation and definitely a love for the overall music education process, philosophies of music education, the history behind it, and the way forward for education, and especially educating young adults and adults as well. Moving forward beyond this, I was asked after I defended my dissertation, what do you plan to do with the research? Well, there's a couple of things I plan to do. Getting a doctor of music education was honestly a passion project. I didn't have I'm going to apply for this job with this degree kind of mindset. I just honestly told myself I wanted to get a doctorate one day. And especially if you're doing it online, there's two main universities that offer this. Boston University, their degree program is a DMA, Doctor of Musical Arts in Music Education, where this one is a DME. It is a Doctor of Music Education. You can research the differences yourselves. The DMA at Boston is a little bit, it has more hours. I mean, just point blank, there's more hours involved with that program. For me, the program at Liberty University best fit my needs. I got all kinds of support from the faculty and the staff. They were on call. Some of my professors I had throughout the entire program or for random different classes. And especially when I asked some of them to be my thesis reader and my dissertation chair, I got a lot of support throughout the entire process. Overall, I wish I had more thumbs. I give it 4 thumbs up for the program. If you have any more questions, you can leave them below. I kind of know where some of these questions are going to go. They're like, oh, Liberty University, there's probably some stigma behind that. I can address that offline. For the needs that I wanted, everything that I wanted in a degree program, I am very happy I went through the program. They're not paying me to do this. I don't think they would anyway. But I am happy with the program. And I'm happy with my way forward. I don't know what that's going to be. I'm retiring the Marine Corps in a couple of years. I guess we'll see. Thanks for tuning in. Comment, subscribe. I forgot to say all that at the beginning of the video. I'm rusty. I haven't done this in a while. Subscribe, like. There's one more. Ring the bell. I don't know. I'm out.